It's been a very busy start to severe weather season so far, and we looks like we have yet a couple of more days of active weather before things finally start to settle down a little bit. But first, I wanted to take you back all the way back to last Tuesday's major tornado outbreak on the 31st of March. And wow, the National Weather Service has been extremely busy doing all the surveys to the extensive damage over multiple states. In fact, the latest update has it upped almost to 119 tornado reports so far, 470 wind reports, 331 hail reports, for a total of 920 reports on that day. And they're still not done. They're still continuing to continue to shuffle through all the damage and do all the surveys over multiple states with all the National Weather Service, all hands on deck. But it continues to remain active in a lot of regions. So for today, there's several pockets of energy that we have to be concerned about. First, along this stalled frontal boundary draped across in portions of Mississippi into portions of southern Alabama there, as well as the southern portions of Georgia, including the Florida panhandle. Some of those could be some stronger wind gusts, isolated to scattered supercells pop up in the heat of the afternoon with some isolated larger hail associated with them. There's also another pocket of energy into Texas where they're going to have an active dry line, and the temperatures really surge. Some of these areas are going to be looking at their hottest temperatures so far of the year. This is what they call a conditional risk, because there is going to be a strong capping inversion down in this region. And if one or two of those supercells decides to try to pop and break the cap, those could easily turn severe in about 10 to 15 minute time frame. So that's why they do have such a large marginal risk, but it is conditional. I mean, it's very, very isolated. But there's also going to be another pocket of energy, just some showers and thunderstorms across portions of Illinois, as well as Indiana and Ohio, including portions of southern Michigan there. There's also going to be another pocket of energy coming across Utah, western portions of Colorado, as well as into Wyoming. But there's the temperatures. As the temperatures continue to surge, we get deeper into the springtime months. The temperatures are going to be elevated, and today is one of those days where you get that west downsloping wind across portions of West Texas, including a good part of central Texas. There's Dallas checking in at 92 degrees, widespread 80s, if not portions of 90s for Florida. And those temperatures surge into Oklahoma as well as into Missouri here, back into the middle 80s. But it's all about the cold temperatures as winter continues to hang on for a good part of the Pacific Northwest, but definitely including portions of Montana, back into the Dakotas and Minnesota. Look at that high temperature of only 23 degrees in Culprit, because they're going to be getting some heavy snow in that region coming up. And they do, in fact, actually have blizzard warnings going to be taking shape on Tuesday and your Wednesday time frame out here in the Dakotas, especially South Dakota, portions of North Dakota, as well as back into Minneapolis again. Man, they've seen so much snow so far, but this one includes points further north in northern Minneapolis. And we do have, yes, that tornado watch happening today further south, where they do have that slight risk for severe storms. But it's all about the wind, as we got a deepening system coming in off the west coast. Very heavy winds traversing across. April is going to be your windiest, one of your windiest months of the year, and that's going to be coming into play today with very strong winds across the good parts of the southwest regions. And then it's all about the dry temperatures, very low humidities, high fire danger out here with these red flag warnings in shape. So definitely be on high alert in that region as the humidity drops down to basically almost single digits, if not low teens in that region. But if you are in the market for a weather station, I highly recommend the Tempest Weatherflow weather station. I've actually had this one myself for the last 3 years. I know a lot of people have actually taken advantage of this on this channel. I greatly appreciate it. But do, in fact, if you are in the market, I would recommend one of these, because it's all solar. Got a convenient little app, and it only takes about 10 minutes to install. That's the cool thing about it. But I do have a discount code for 10% off and free shipping at checkout. So if you'd like to purchase one of these for yourself, I'll have the link in the description below, so you can easily click on it and order one for yourself. But yes, going in tomorrow, we got to be concerned about again, because again, It's another, unfortunately, Tuesday setup, 7-day cycles. And again, we have another moderate risk upgrade to a lot of the same areas that get hit hard just last Tuesday. So they do have another marginal risk, moderate risk in place for southeastern portions of Iowa, northwestern portions of Illinois, including southern portions of Missouri here. But this whole entire zone under the enhanced risk, and that's the northern mode. And then again, just like last week, we have a southern mode as well that starts from Missouri back into Arkansas, and this goes all the way down into northeast Texas, and it could in fact include parts of even North Texas, as maybe they updated later on, in the afternoon time frame. But tornadoes is going to be a huge concern again, unfortunately. These are a lot of the same areas. We've got a moderate risk and a 10%, if not 15% hatched risk up here in this zone right here on the northern mode, as well as into the southern mode, so we have to be concerned about not only tornadoes, but some of those could be strong tornadoes heading into the overnight time frames. This one looks to be a different type of setup. It might not get going until way later in the nighttime hours, but it is going to be including some larger hail associated with it as well, and a really good big swath of hail zone that could be susceptible to seeing some of those 2-inch or larger type hail with this particular setup. So definitely be on high alert as we get into the overnight hours on your Tuesday. But this has been trending a little bit later and later and later. It's definitely trending more of a kind of an overnight setup. Here's some of these tornado parameters, and they are really high, but they go well north. I mean, this is in northern Illinois, all the way including into Indiana. And in fact, they keep going even portions of Michigan as well as into Wisconsin as we get deeper into the overnight hours. So this is definitely trending to more of an overnight type setup. Unfortunately, nocturnal tornadoes, if we look at the overall updrafts on the Elicity indexes, you can see the southern mode extending further into portions of maybe central Texas. So if anything, they might have to pull this risk zone a little bit further back. But this is the areas of concern with the highest capability of the largest hail, or some of these maybe frenetic spin ups trying to lift with these updrafts that can come in within this zone into Arkansas, as well as into Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. Does include the Ohio area, but also includes a good part of Michigan, including southern portions of Wisconsin. But look at the 3 a.m. setup on the dew point. Like I mentioned, this thing is really trending way late. So there's going to be a kind of an early evening type mode, but it looks like a lot of instability won't actually happen until after midnight time frame. Because look at the dew points into the 3 a.m. time frame on Wednesday, well into that soupy warm sector, still back into the upper 60s in a good part of Texas, extending through Arkansas, through portions of Missouri here, all the way including central portions of even into Michigan at this time of hour, getting into a 3 a.m. type setup for April the 5th with low 60s in a good part of Michigan is kind of unheard of with this particular setup. And that's going to put a lot of the instability again way late. So if we kind of stop the clock here around 5 o'clock in the morning, we could be looking at a kind of a nasty squall line after we have this initial mode really starting to set up. So this whole trend is trending way late. So when the Storm Prediction Center pulls these things out, they actually go all the way until 7 a.m. the following day in the morning time frame. So even though this shows Tuesday, most of Tuesday looks fairly decent in a lot of those areas. It doesn't really get going until way later into the evening, into the overnight time frame. So we're gonna have to be concerned maybe in a wee hour of the morning type setup further south into northeastern Texas. And then this squall line will be moving across. And what that does is that could put the overall precipitation for the next 48 hours. Really, a lot of this again doesn't get going until after that midnight time frame. So there's the setup today with kind of that stalled frontal boundary that'll include some very heavy rain across this southern region, but also to the north. I mean, this is going to be extending well north in a good part of Michigan, as well as into Wisconsin, this is going to be really kind of all in the form of snow up here in the Dakotas, back into Minnesota. And there is the snow that's over the last next 48 hours. And we could be looking at some pretty significant totals. This is the latest high resolution guidance up here into Wyoming, getting into northwestern portions of Nebraska, as well as into a good part of South Dakota. Some of these areas, look at the chart, guys. I mean, that's over 2 feet of snow just on the northwest side of that very deepening low pressure center that looks to be maxing out, bottoming out around 980 range. A lot of the guidance has it at. But yeah, up here in this swath, we could easily pick up 8 to 12 inches of snow, if not more. And a lot of the National Weather Services are expecting about a foot of snow in some of these regions. But as we go into your Wednesday timeframe, like I mentioned, the slowness of this system, that actually puts Wednesday a little bit more into play now, especially west north up here into Michigan, up here into good part of Ohio, Indiana. There's the snow still cranking out, and a good part of the Dakotas into Michigan. And the latest update from the the Storm Prediction Center on this one does in fact have that hatched risk, because most of this instability has it going into your Wednesday and hitting towards deeper into the day. So that we have to be concerned about. Some of those actually could be some tornadoes, if not some strong tornadoes, up here in a good part of Michigan, and extending all the way into Ohio, Indiana, including portions of Kentucky, maybe even West Virginia, getting into Pennsylvania, upstate New York, including the Buffalo area, could possibly see some maybe larger hail and under that tornado risk, because the dew points surge well north. Remember, you only have to be around 55, and these are going to be in the low 60s in this region. So plenty of moisture to tap into. Actually, the southern mode is not as intense as the northern mode on this particular setup. But as we go into your deeper into the day on Thursday, I think most of this is probably still going to be at least marginally severe as this continues to race across into the east. So Thursday afternoon, we could be looking at some stronger storms aligned along the I-95 corridor, draping across the east coast. But then further south, gonna have a kind of a stalled frontal boundary. Then we have to be concerned about some heavier rains, really fishtailing back into Louisiana, Mississippi, especially in southern portions of Texas here, a good part of South Texas, Houston area, Victoria area. Those areas, possibly including the Austin area, these areas could be looking at some heavier rains with that stalled frontal boundary. And as we go into the weekend, things finally start to settle down. So I know Easter's coming up this weekend, so everybody's wanting to know outdoor plans potentially. Got family coming over. This is the setup for your Saturday, for April the 8th time frame. Most of the instability, a good part of the country, is going to be pretty clear for a good part of the country. But further to the south, this is that draped frontal boundary that we have to be concerned about. Some isolated showers and thunderstorms. Most of this will not be on the severe. I think the severe stuff really starts to settle down after Thursday time frame, heading into Friday. So by the time we head into Saturday, just looking at some isolated sporadic showers, including your Easter Sunday. So we are going to be looking at some lighter rain still, again, draped across this boundary in the southern portions of Texas, the southern areas of the southeast, including Florida, and parts of the Carolinas as well. We might have a little cool front coming in through portions of Missouri and Illinois, and back into portions of Wisconsin again, with some isolated showers, but not much to speak of. But the trend is different, right? So as we head into next week, this is something we actually haven't seen in a while. The ridge actually comes back for the west. You've been really cold for the last, I don't even know how long. So you've been well below average for a good part, and that's really been significant setting up these severe weather setups. So I think once the ridge starts to come back a little bit for at least a short time heading into next week, then I think it really squashes the severe weather front for a good part of next week. And it'll also include a lot more drier air. So I think we'll be coming in to a much more calmer type period after the, say, 10th time frame, and heading towards the middle of the month. But it is April. So it's April. It is severe weather season. So I do feel the trough will come back. This is the latest ensemble guidance by the 15th of the month. And it does have the trough coming back out west, has the warm sector in the central, the eastern 2/3. And that's probably going to be spelling trouble again, as probably more severe weather will be coming back after the 15th of the month. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me in the next update. Fire protect you before and after the storm.